The therapist's voice trembles as she recounts the chilling tale, her eyes brimming with tears. The conference room falls silent, save for the occasional rustle of papers and the soft whir of the air conditioning. Dr. Emily Hartman, a respected psychologist specializing in pediatric trauma, leans forward, her hands clasped tightly on the podium. "I've seen many cases in my career," she begins, her voice barely above a whisper, "but nothing could have prepared me for this." She takes a deep breath, steadying herself before continuing. "An 8-year-old girl, Sarah, came to me after receiving a heart transplant. Her mother was concerned about the nightmares that had begun plaguing her daughter shortly after the surgery." The audience listens intently, their expressions a mix of curiosity and disbelief. Dr. Hartman's voice grows stronger as she delves deeper into the case. "At first, I thought it was a normal reaction to the trauma of major surgery, but as our sessions progressed, it became clear that something far more extraordinary was happening." She pauses, her gaze sweeping across the room. Sarah began describing her dreams in vivid detail. Dreams of a violent attack, of a man with cold eyes and rough hands, dreams that, as we would later discover, were not dreams at all, but memories. A murmur ripples through the crowd. Dr. Hartman continues, her voice now steady and clear. "The heart Sarah received had belonged to a 10-year-old girl who had been murdered. The details Sarah provided, the time, the weapon, the killer's appearance, were so precise, so hauntingly accurate, that we had no choice but to involve the authorities." The room grows tense as Dr. Hartman recounts the investigation that followed. Using Sarah's descriptions, the police were able to identify and apprehend the killer. The evidence she provided was crucial in securing a conviction. Every detail matched, from the clothes the murderer wore to the last words the victim spoke. Dr. Hartman pauses, allowing the weight of her words to settle over the audience. "I've spent my career relying on science, on empirical evidence. But this case has forced me to question everything I thought I knew about the human mind and body." As the implications of Dr. Hartman's testimony begin to sink in, the audience shifts uncomfortably in their seats. The possibility that memories could somehow be stored within organs, transferred from donor to recipient, challenges the very foundations of modern medicine and psychology. Dr. Hartman clears her throat, her voice taking on a more analytical tone. "Of course, we must approach this case with scientific rigor. While the details are undeniably compelling, we must consider alternative explanations. Could this be an extraordinary coincidence? A case of cryptomnesia, perhaps? Or are we witnessing something truly revolutionary, cellular memory that transcends the boundaries of the brain?" The room buzzes with whispered conversations as colleagues debate the implications of Dr. Hartman's revelation. She raises her hand, calling for silence before continuing. "This case raises profound questions about the nature of consciousness, memory, and identity. If memories can indeed be stored in organs other than the brain, what does this mean for our understanding of the self? How might this impact the field of organ transplantation? And perhaps most importantly, how do we reconcile these extraordinary claims with our current scientific knowledge?" To address these questions, we must first examine what we know about cellular memory from a biological perspective. At its core, the human body is a complex network of specialized cells, each playing a unique role in maintaining our physiological functions. While neurons in the brain are primarily responsible for storing and processing information, other cells in our body also possess the ability to retain certain types of memory. One of the most well-documented forms of cellular memory exists within our immune system. White blood cells, particularly lymphocytes, have the remarkable ability to remember past encounters with pathogens. This immunological memory forms the basis of our adaptive immune response and is the reason why vaccines are so effective. Dr. Andrea Love, an immunologist and science communicator, explains, "When our immune system encounters a pathogen for the first time, it mounts a response that can take days or even weeks. But if we encounter that same pathogen again, our memory cells recognize it almost immediately, allowing for a much faster and more effective response." This rapid recognition occurs because memory cells retain information about the pathogen's specific molecular structure. When a virus or bacteria we've previously encountered enters our body, these memory cells quickly identify the threat and mobilize our defenses. It's as if our immune system has a vast library of wanted posters for various pathogens, allowing it to quickly spot and neutralize repeat offenders. The process by which this immunological memory is formed is fascinating. When a pathogen first invades our body, certain white blood cells engulf and break it down, displaying fragments of the invader on their surface. These fragments act as a kind of biological mugshot, allowing other immune cells to recognize and respond to the threat. Some of these cells then transform into long-lived memory cells, circulating throughout the body and standing ready to sound the alarm if the pathogen reappears. This cellular memory is not limited to natural infections. Vaccines work by introducing harmless fragments or weakened versions of pathogens into our bodies, allowing our immune system to develop memory cells without the risk of full-blown illness. It's a bit like a fire drill for our immune system, preparing it to respond quickly and effectively when faced with the real threat. The implications of this immunological memory are profound. It allows us to develop long-lasting protection against diseases that might otherwise be fatal. However, it's important to note that this type of cellular memory is highly specific and limited in scope. It doesn't contain information about a person's experiences, personality, or consciousness in the way that neural networks in the brain do. So while immunological memory provides a clear example of how cells outside the brain can retain information, it doesn't explain the kind of personality transfer described in organ transplant cases. To understand whether such transfer is possible, we need to look at other forms of cellular memory and consider alternative explanations for the reported personality changes in transplant recipients. Beyond the immune system, some simple organisms exhibit primitive forms of memory without a brain. The trumpet animal Kuehl, or stentor, is a single-celled organism that can learn to habituate to repeated stimuli. When touched, it contracts into a protective ball, but this response consumes energy. If bumped repeatedly by harmless objects like algae, the stentor learns to ignore these touches, preserving its resources. This ability to adjust its behavior based on past experiences suggests a rudimentary form of memory at the cellular level. Similarly, giant amoebas have shown the capacity to navigate simple mazes, improving their performance over time. These examples demonstrate that even without complex neural networks, individual cells can retain and utilize information from past experiences. However, when we consider the claims of personality transfer through organ transplants, we must approach them with a critical eye. The cases that capture public attention often involve dramatic changes that seem to align with the donor's characteristics. But this apparent correlation may be the result of selection bias in reporting. Sensational stories of recipients suddenly developing new talents or preferences are more likely to be shared and remembered than cases where no changes occur. This creates a skewed perception of how common such transfers might be. Moreover, there are several alternative explanations for the personality changes observed in transplant recipients. The physical and emotional stress of undergoing a major surgery can profoundly impact a person's outlook and behavior. The life-changing nature of receiving a new organ may inspire recipients to pursue new interests or reevaluate their priorities. Additionally, the powerful immunosuppressant medications required after transplantation can have significant side effects, including mood changes and altered cognitive function. These factors, combined with the psychological impact of carrying another person's organ, could easily account for many of the reported personality shifts. It's also worth considering the role of suggestion and expectation in shaping these experiences. Transplant recipients who are aware of their donor's background may unconsciously adopt traits they associate with that person. This phenomenon, known as confabulation, can lead individuals to genuinely believe they have acquired new memories or abilities, when in fact they are unconsciously constructing these experiences based on their expectations and available information. Let's examine some specific cases that have captured public attention. The story of the 25-year-old graduate student whose sex drive and technique allegedly improved after receiving a heart and lung transplant from a young lesbian woman is particularly intriguing. While it's tempting to attribute these changes to some form of cellular memory transfer, there are more plausible explanations. Firstly, the immunosuppressant medications prescribed after transplant surgery can have significant effects on hormone levels and mood. Prednisone, a commonly used immunosuppressant, is known to increase energy levels and, in some cases, libido. The student's improved sexual performance could be a direct result of these medication-induced changes. Moreover, the life-affirming experience of surviving a major surgery and receiving a second chance at life often leads to increased confidence and a renewed appreciation for physical intimacy. This psychological boost, combined with the physiological effects of medication, could easily account for the reported improvements in sexual prowess. The claim that the recipient suddenly became a better lover because he could feel exactly how the woman's body feels is likely an example of retroactive attribution. Having learned about the donor's sexual orientation, the recipient may have unconsciously adjusted his behavior and then interpreted these changes as a direct result of the transplant. Similarly, the case of the teenage girl who developed an interest in medicine after receiving a heart transplant from a donor whose father wanted her to pursue a medical career is less mysterious than it initially appears. The experience of undergoing a life-saving medical procedure often inspires patients to explore careers in healthcare. This newfound interest is more likely a result of the recipient's personal experience with the medical system than any transferred cellular memory. It's also worth noting that many of these reported personality changes align suspiciously well with stereotypes and cultural expectations. The male recipient who suddenly enjoyed shopping and carrying a purse after receiving organs from a woman reflects common gender stereotypes rather than any scientifically plausible mechanism of personality transfer. The power of suggestion and the human tendency to seek patterns and meaning in random events should not be underestimated. When transplant recipients are informed about their donor's background, they may unconsciously adopt behaviors they associate with that person. This can create a self-fulfilling prophecy where the recipient's beliefs about the donor shape their own behavior and experiences. Furthermore, the stress and emotional upheaval of undergoing a major transplant can lead to significant personality changes independent of any donor influence. The process of confronting mortality, experiencing gratitude for a second chance at life, and adapting to post-transplant lifestyle changes can profoundly impact an individual's outlook, interests, and behavior. It's also crucial to consider the role of coincidence and confirmation bias in these cases. Given the vast number of organ transplants performed each year, it's statistically likely that some recipients will develop interests or traits that happen to align with those of their donors. When these coincidences occur, they are often highlighted and remembered, while cases where no such alignment exists go unreported. The human brain's remarkable ability to construct narratives and find meaning in random events can lead us to perceive connections where none actually exist. This tendency, combined with the emotional intensity of the transplant experience, can create compelling personal stories that feel true to the individuals involved, even if they lack scientific validity. While it's important to approach these claims with skepticism, we should also recognize the profound psychological impact of receiving an organ transplant. The knowledge that one is carrying a part of another person within their body can lead to complex emotional responses and a sense of connection with the donor. This feeling of connection, however, is more likely rooted in psychological processes than in any cellular memory transfer. The human mind is remarkably adept at creating narratives to make sense of complex experiences, and the transplant process provides fertile ground for such meaning-making. Consider the case of the 47-year-old white man who received a heart from a 17-year-old black student. His concerns about physical changes and feelings of guilt after intercourse reveal deep-seated racial biases and misconceptions about identity. These pre-existing beliefs, rather than any cellular memory, are driving his perceived changes. Dr. Sarah Thompson, a transplant psychologist, explains, many recipients grapple with questions of identity post-transplant. They may worry about inheriting traits from their donors, even when there's no scientific basis for such concerns. She recounts a case where a middle-aged woman who received a liver from a young man became convinced she was developing masculine characteristics. In reality, her hormone levels remained unchanged. The changes she perceived were entirely psychological. These cases highlight the power of suggestion and the role of cultural beliefs in shaping post-transplant experiences. In some cultures, organs are believed to carry the essence of a person, leading recipients to anticipate personality changes. This expectation can create a self-fulfilling prophecy, where recipients unconsciously adopt behaviors they associate with their donors. The phenomenon extends beyond individual cases to broader societal beliefs. The popularity of cellular memory stories in media and entertainment reinforces these ideas, creating a feedback loop that shapes public perception. Movies depicting organ recipients inheriting skills or memories from their donors may seem like harmless entertainment, but they can have real-world consequences. Dr. Thompson warns, these narratives can create unnecessary anxiety for potential donors and recipients. I've had patients refuse life-saving transplants because they feared losing their identity or taking on unwanted traits from the donor. She emphasizes the importance of educating patients about the scientific realities of transplantation to alleviate these fears. The power of belief in shaping experience is well documented in psychological research. The placebo effect, where a person's expectation of improvement leads to actual physical changes, demonstrates how our minds can influence our bodies. In the context of organ transplantation, this effect can be particularly pronounced. Recipients who believe they might inherit traits from their donors may unconsciously alter their behavior to align with this expectation. They might develop new interests or preferences, not because of any cellular memory transfer, but because they are subconsciously exploring aspects of themselves they associate with the donor. This psychological phenomenon can be so powerful that it creates vivid subjective experiences. Recipients may report feeling emotions or having memories they attribute to their donor, even when there's no possible mechanism for such transfer. These experiences, while genuine to the individual, are more likely the result of the mind's ability to construct reality based on expectations and available information. The case of the 8-year-old girl who seemingly inherited memories of her donor's murder is particularly striking. While it's tempting to attribute this to cellular memory, a more plausible explanation lies in the realm of cryptomnesia and confabulation. The child may have overheard details about the case or been exposed to similar stories in media, unconsciously incorporating this information into her own narrative. Dr. Elizabeth Loftus, a cognitive psychologist renowned for her work on false memories, cautions against taking such accounts at face value. Our memories are far more malleable than we realize, she explains. Under the right circumstances, people can develop vivid, detailed memories of events that never occurred. In high-stress situations, like recovering from a major surgery, this susceptibility to false memories can be even greater. The implications of these psychological factors extend beyond individual cases to the broader field of transplant medicine. Understanding the role of belief and expectation in shaping post-transplant experiences is crucial for providing comprehensive care to recipients. Healthcare providers must be prepared to address not only the physical aspects of transplantation, but also the complex psychological terrain that patients navigate. Dr. Thompson advocates for a holistic approach to transplant care that includes psychological support and education. We need to help patients understand that while receiving an organ is a profound experience, it doesn't fundamentally change who they are, she says. At the same time, we should acknowledge the very real emotional journey they're on and provide support for the changes they may experience as they adjust to their new reality. This balanced approach recognizes the power of the mind in shaping experience without lending credence to scientifically unsupported ideas about cellular memory. It allows for the exploration of the deep emotional and psychological impacts of transplantation while maintaining a grounding in empirical reality. As we continue to unravel the complexities of the human mind and body, it's crucial to approach claims of cellular memory and personality transfer with a critical eye. While these stories may capture our imagination and speak to our desire for connection and meaning, they often reveal more about our psychological processes than any cellular memory transfer. The resurgence of ancient ideas about gaining traits by consuming organs, now applied to modern transplant cases, demonstrates how deeply rooted these concepts are in human culture. Popular media and online resources frequently promote these ideas, despite the lack of scientific evidence. A quick internet search reveals countless articles and testimonials claiming personality changes after organ transplants. Even reputable therapy websites sometimes entertain these notions, presenting them as intriguing possibilities rather than unfounded speculation. This proliferation of non-scientific thinking can have serious consequences. Dr. Thompson notes, "I've seen patients refuse potentially life-saving transplants because they fear losing their identity or taking on unwanted traits from the donor. The belief in cellular memory can create unnecessary anxiety in transplant recipients, complicating their recovery and adjustment process. Moreover, these ideas can discourage organ donation. Potential donors may hesitate, worried that parts of their personality or consciousness will live on in ways they can't control. This fear, while unfounded, could have real impacts on organ availability and consequently on the lives of those waiting for transplants. The harm extends beyond individual cases to broader public health concerns. When pseudoscientific ideas gain traction, they can erode trust in medical science and evidence-based practices. This skepticism can have far-reaching effects, influencing attitudes towards other medical interventions and public health measures." Dr. Emily Chen, a bioethicist specializing in transplant medicine, emphasizes the importance of addressing these beliefs head-on. We can't simply dismiss these ideas as harmless fantasies, she argues. We need to engage with them critically and compassionately, helping people understand the science while acknowledging the complex emotions involved in the transplant process. We need Amrithan. This approach requires a delicate balance. While it's crucial to debunk myths and promote scientific understanding, it's equally important to recognize the profound psychological and emotional journey that transplant recipients undergo. The challenge lies in providing support and meaning without resorting to unfounded claims about cellular memory. One promising avenue is to focus on the very real connections that can form between recipients and donor families. Many transplant centers facilitate anonymous communication between these parties, allowing for the exchange of letters or even meetings in some cases. These connections can provide a sense of meaning and closure for both recipients and donor families without relying on pseudoscientific explanations. Dr. Chen recounts a powerful example. I worked with a heart recipient who initially believed he had inherited his donor's musical talents. Through counseling, we explored his feelings and helped him recognize that his newfound interest in music was more likely a response to his second chance at life. Eventually, he was able to connect with the donor's family and learned that music had indeed been important to the donor. This knowledge deepened his appreciation for the gift he'd received, but in a way grounded in reality rather than mystical thinking. Such experiences highlight the importance of scientific skepticism when approaching claims about cellular memory in organ transplants. While these stories can be compelling, it's crucial to apply rigorous critical thinking and demand empirical evidence before accepting extraordinary claims. Dr. Rachel Foster, a neuroscientist specializing in memory formation, emphasizes the need for controlled studies. Anecdotal evidence is not enough when we're dealing with claims that challenge our fundamental understanding of biology, she explains. We need large-scale, double-blind studies that can separate coincidence and psychological factors from any potential cellular memory transfer. However, designing such studies presents significant ethical and practical challenges. It would be unethical to withhold information about donors from recipients for the sake of research, and the sample size required to draw meaningful conclusions would be enormous. In the absence of such studies, it's essential to recognize and account for the cognitive biases that can lead us to see patterns where none exist. Confirmation bias, for instance, can cause us to focus on cases that confirm our pre-existing beliefs while ignoring contradictory evidence. The availability heuristic might make us overestimate the frequency of personality changes in transplant recipients because dramatic stories are more memorable and widely shared. Overcoming these biases requires a concerted effort to think critically and seek out alternative explanations. Dr. Foster suggests a simple exercise for evaluating claims of cellular memory. For each reported change in a recipient, ask yourself, is there a more plausible explanation? Could this change be due to medication side effects, the psychological impact of the transplant, or simple coincidence? This skeptical approach doesn't diminish the profound nature of organ transplantation or the deep connections that can form between recipients and donor families. Instead, it allows us to appreciate these experiences for what they truly are, without resorting to unfounded speculation. Promoting scientific thinking around organ transplantation extends beyond the medical community to the general public. Better education about the realities of transplantation can help combat misconceptions and alleviate unfounded fears. Public health campaigns have successfully tackled complex scientific topics in the past, from explaining vaccination to promoting understanding of climate change. Dr. Chen believes similar efforts could be effective in the realm of organ transplantation. We need to demystify the process, she argues. By helping people understand the science behind transplantation, we can reduce anxiety and increase willingness to donate organs. Such educational initiatives could take many forms, from school curricula to social media campaigns. The key is to present accurate, accessible information that addresses common misconceptions head-on. For instance, explaining how memories are stored in neural networks rather than individual cells could help dispel notions of personality transfer through organ transplantation. Moreover, these efforts should emphasize the life-saving nature of organ donation and the very real, scientifically grounded connections that can form between recipients and donor families. By focusing on these aspects, we can create a narrative around transplantation that is both compelling and factually accurate. The importance of scientific literacy in combating misconceptions cannot be overstated. In an era of rapid information spread, the ability to critically evaluate claims and distinguish between credible sources and pseudoscience is more crucial than ever. By promoting these skills in the context of organ transplantation, we can not only address specific misconceptions, but also foster a broader appreciation for scientific thinking. As we continue to unravel the complexities of the human body and mind, it's essential to approach new discoveries with a balance of wonder and skepticism. The field of organ transplantation, with its life-saving potential and profound psychological impacts, provides a perfect opportunity to cultivate scientific thinking in the broader public. By addressing the allure of cellular memory claims head-on, we can not only improve understanding of transplantation, but also promote critical thinking skills that are valuable across all areas of life. As we've seen throughout this chapter, the human tendency to seek meaning and connection can sometimes lead us astray. The compelling stories of personality changes after organ transplants speak to our desire for continuity beyond death and our fascination with the mysteries of consciousness. However, it's crucial to distinguish between these understandable psychological responses and scientifically verifiable phenomena. Real cellular memory, as observed in the immune system and simple organisms, is a fascinating area of study with significant implications for medicine and biology. The ability of our bodies to retain information at the cellular level, from the adaptive responses of our immune system to the simple learning behaviors of single-celled organisms, demonstrates the remarkable complexity of life. These scientifically grounded examples of cellular memory stand in stark contrast to the unfounded claims of personality transfer in organ transplants. By highlighting this distinction, we can foster a more nuanced understanding of cellular memory and its limitations. This approach allows us to appreciate the genuine marvels of biology without resorting to pseudoscientific explanations for complex psychological phenomena. Moreover, promoting accurate information about organ transplantation is crucial for public health. Misconceptions about cellular memory and personality transfer can discourage potential donors and create unnecessary anxiety for recipients. By dispelling these myths and focusing on the real life-saving impact of organ donation, we can encourage more people to consider becoming donors. Dr. Chen emphasizes this point. Every time someone decides not to become an organ donor because they're worried about their memories or personality living on, we potentially lose the opportunity to save multiple lives. It's our responsibility as medical professionals and scientists to provide clear, accurate information that addresses these concerns. The call for continued research in this field is equally important. While current evidence does not support claims of cellular memory transfer in organ transplants, science is always evolving. Rigorous, well-designed studies can help us better understand the complex physiological and psychological impacts of organ transplantation. This research not only advances our scientific knowledge, but also provides a foundation for improved patient care and support. As we conclude this exploration of cellular memory and organ transplantation, it's worth reflecting on the broader implications of this discussion. The tension between compelling anecdotes and scientific evidence is not unique to this field. From alternative medicine to paranormal phenomena, we often encounter claims that challenge our understanding of the world. The critical thinking skills required to evaluate these claims are invaluable in navigating our information-rich world. By encouraging skepticism, promoting scientific literacy, and fostering an appreciation for empirical evidence, we equip individuals to make informed decisions about their health and well-being. In the realm of organ transplantation, this approach allows us to focus on the truly remarkable aspects of the process. The ability to save lives through the generous act of organ donation, the intricate surgical procedures that make transplantation possible, and the resilience of the human body in adapting to a new organ. These are the real marvels that deserve our attention and admiration. As we move forward, let us approach the topic of organ transplantation with a balance of compassion and critical thinking. By acknowledging the profound emotional journey of transplant recipients while grounding our understanding in scientific evidence, we can provide better support for those involved in the transplantation process and promote a more accurate public understanding of this vital medical procedure. The story of cellular memory and organ transplantation serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of scientific skepticism in our quest to understand the world around us. It challenges us to look beyond compelling anecdotes and seek robust evidence, even when, perhaps especially when, the claims align with our hopes and beliefs. In doing so, we not only advance our understanding of biology and medicine, but also cultivate a more rational, evidence-based approach to the mysteries of life.